Hello, welcome to another review. Now that summer's here, you may want to feature a summer watch on your wrist. Well, I'm glad to say today's review features such a watch. This video would not be possible to make without the contributions of longislandwatches.com, who have sent me this watch to review. But just to make it perfectly clear, longislandwatches.com have no editorial control over any verdicts I draw in this video, so anything I say is my own thoughts and not recommended or suggested by them in any way. That being said, it would not be possible to make this video without their contribution, so if you do like this watch, I'd recommend having a look at their website, and I'll link that down in the description below. So the watch in question is none other than the brand new Islander watch, the ISL 131, also known as the ISL Linen. So this is the linen dial watch. I really like the look of it, and it's not really too great to see from there because it's not focusing on it, but either way, it's really nice. So we're going to be going through the specifications now, starting off with the price. So price of this watch is pretty high considering the other Islanders I've reviewed, but it's still very good for the price. Now, I'm a British person, so I'm going to do it in pounds. Americans, I think it's about $350, but to us British, that is £284. Quite a lot of money, but when I list the rest of the specifications, that's not going to seem quite as high as you think when you get as much as you do with this watch. Now with the case dimensions, you have a 38mm case diameter, a 11mm case thickness, which is very thin and is something we'll go back onto later on. And it's also really nice to see a 44.5mm lug-to-lug. Very compact and very wearable, this watch. Now we also have a sapphire crystal covering the front and the back of this watch, as it has got an exhibition display case back with an 11mm thickness. Very impressive indeed. And it's also screwed down with a screw down crown, so that is allowing for 100 meters of water resistance. So now let's go on to the pros of this watch. The Linen Dial Islander truly does work well with any summer outfit. Its cream textured dial allows it to be worn in any warm weather setting. Now the case design of this watch has taken heavy inspiration from the Rolex Explorer, which is not necessarily a bad thing, as the Rolex Explorer is mostly unobtainable. Therefore you're having that amazing design for a fraction of the price. And just like the Rolex Explorer, this flies under the radar really well, unless an avid watch enthusiast notices your wrist and takes a closer look, and they'll see that unique textured dial that the linen pattern provides. Now moving back over to the case thickness, I have to say it's very impressive to have an exhibition display case back and still maintain an 11mm thickness, and this watch really does wear really close to wrist. Now it's going to be hard for me to show on camera, but it really does wear really snugly. It's absolutely beautiful. It really does leave no gap to the wrist, which is something I don't really ever find. I think it's because the case curves ever so slightly, as well as it being so thin, means there's no air gap between your wrist and your watch, which is just really nice to have on this type of watch. But being so thin doesn't mean you have to compromise on functionality. As this watch has got 100 meters of water resistance, you could still take it in the shower with you, take it on a swim, or take it into the sea. As long as you give it a rinse off with clean water afterwards, you'll be all good to go. So the dial on this watch is very simplistic and minimalistic, which you might think is a bad thing, but it actually makes it incredibly legible, which is after all what you're probably using the watch for, is to tell the time. And if you have lines upon lines of text and overcomplicated hour markers, you're not going to be able to do that very easily. So given its very simple baton hour markers, and its very simple design in hands, allow it to be very legible. Now the polishing on both the hour markers and the hands make it really nice to have a slight glow when it hits the light just right, giving it very good legibility even in slightly low light scenarios. And if you're ever in full darkness, well, this luminescence is actually quite powerful, so you're going to be able to see the watch for at least 10 minutes after you enter the darkness. Now, I'd be doing a great disservice if I didn't mention in further detail the linen dial itself. Linen has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and has been in watchmaking for at least the last 50 years, featuring brands such as Rolex. Now, what the linen dial does to this watch is add depth to a watch which is only 11mm thick. It does this by capturing light in between the finely woven fibres of the linen texture, As it creates shadows, it adds depth to the watch, making it feel a lot thicker and deeper than it actually is. This does add that summery vibe as you see that finely woven texture on your wrist. It's also nice to see the Jubilee bracelet on this watch. Having those beautiful articulating links means it snugly fits on your wrist, and it's definitely a better fit than the Oyster counterpart for this type of watch in my opinion. Also, having solid end links and 3 levels of micro adjust means that it's really easy for anyone to get a really good fitment on this watch's bracelet. Now moving on to the cons of this watch, I have to say there really isn't many here because this watch is just so well built for the price. The only thing I'd have to really say is the press clasp. I'm not a massive fan of the press clasp. I love the milling of the actual clasp, but the catch over the top that's pressed just feels a bit cheap, and not having it engraved is another detail which is slightly missing. Other than that, really there isn't really anything to complain about. This watch is really well built for the price. Islander watches have absolutely smashed it out of the park with this dial design, and I hope to see them go further down this avenue, exploring new and unique dial designs in upcoming releases. I'd definitely put this at my 2022 summer pick of the year, but let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Now I thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you haven't subscribed already and you like the content you're seeing, I'd recommend doing so as it's free and you can just watch any of my upcoming videos and get notified for them. But until next video, goodbye.